to order. I hear the House is working on a supplemental calendar. We encourage the House to get some more bills on the floor. Secretary will read House Bill 132.
House Bill 132 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 26 of Chapter 11 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to pharmacists and pharmacies and dentists, dental hygienists, and dental assistants respectively, so as to provide that the Georgia State Board of Pharmacy and the Georgia Board of Dentistry are transferred from being administratively attached to the Secretary of State to the Department of Community Health and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th. Present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to bring before the body House Bill 132. House Bill 132 transfers the oversight of two professional areas, pharmacies and dentists. It transfers them from the Secretary of State's office to the Department of Community Health, and it would be effective July 1st, 2013. Currently, the Secretary of State has been managing this office for some time. It would be going to the Department of Community Health and be working with the Georgia Composite Medical Board to administer the oversight of this board. Administrative procedures would be very similar to that you find in the Georgia Composite Medical Board, and would create great efficiencies, some synergies, some common ground, and some economies of scale that would be very advantageous for the state of Georgia. Mr. President, I yield for questions.
There are questions.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from the 36th, you pushed the wrong light. You were at the wrong desk. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th. Please give the Senator your attention.
Will the Senator yield?
Certainly, ma'am.
Senator, I have read through this bill several times, and I don't understand. You are making two separate boards. Is that correct? Could you explain that?
Yes, ma'am. They would be under the Department of Community Health.
But what exactly are those boards?
They would be for the oversight of the dental community and the pharmacy community, and regulate both those industries.
And could you tell me how many members are going to be on those boards?
There are, I don't recall, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't recall how many are on the board.
Senator, will you further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, is it not true that you are creating essentially two new agencies? And is it also not true that as a member of my party, a Republican Party, that you are increasing the bureaucracy? Is that not true?
I would appreciate the Senator's opinion on that matter. I think you clearly stated it.
Well, Senator, do you understand, or could you tell me, what is the makeup of those boards? What is the membership? How do you compose it?
The makeup would be made of people from the dental community, people from the pharmacy community, and in fact, they would be regulating themselves. And if you look to the Georgia Composite Medical Board letter, which is probably on your desk by now, it would say members of the Georgia Medical Composite Board offer their support of House Bill 132. Passage of this legislation will strengthen the ability of the pharmacy and dental boards to protect the public safety by reducing the extent to which they must compete for non-health care boards for scarce resources such as investigative efforts, infrastructure, support, and funding priorities.
Senator, would you further yield?
Certainly.
Could you tell me what the budget is for the Medical Composite Board?
The budget for the, no, I do not have that for the Medical Composite Board. Hold on, I might have it. I don't, but I have it for the dentistry and for the pharmacy board.
Would you further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell me how much that cost is going to be?
$402,000 for the dentistry board, and $1,440,000 for the $1,440,000 for the pharmacy board, $420,000 for the dentistry board.
So could you tell me what that total cost is? I don't have it here in front of me.
$1,800,000.
So it's approximately $2 million more.
Roughly, that's correct.
Well, would it not be true that the Medical Composite Board is $2.3 million a year every year in the state budget? So you're adding an additional $2 million. So that's over $4 million, about $4.3 million for the creation of 2 new agencies. Is that not true?
That would be accurate, Senator. I would also point out that the dentistry board brings in revenue, average revenue of $992,000 versus that $400,000 expense, and the pharmacy board brings in $3,100,000 when compared to that $1,400,000 expense.
Would you further yield?
Certainly.
Is it not true that the money does not follow the license, that money goes into the general fund?
That's correct.
That the Secretary of State's office only gets a certain percentage, and I believe it's about 20%. Is that not true?
That's correct. Sir.
Chair recognizes Senator from 29th. 29th for a question. Senator from the 29th. 29th.
Well, Senator Yield.
Certainly.
Senator, would you agree that one of the principles of conservative governance is that state agencies are run in a competent fashion?
Yes, I would.
And Senator, would you further yield?
Yes.
Would you agree that currently that both the pharmacy board and the dentistry board under their current management system are having difficulty meeting the needs of the constituent groups that they're designed to serve?
I would, in fact, agree.
And if you'll yield for one final question.
Certainly.
Would House Bill 132 vastly improve the customer service to those constituent groups?
It would, in fact.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd for question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, how many years of post-secondary education do you have to be a pharmacist?
I'll yield to my friend
Would
from
it
the
be
first.
7?
How many years
Something
of
like
post-secondary education to be a pharmacist? 4 years.
4. How many years of post-secondary education would a post-secondary education, how many years to be a dentist? How many years would you have to have? 7?
8. 8.
8 and 8.
8.
So 8 years to be either one of those,
That's
those
correct.
worthy professions. Who in the Secretary of State's office is qualified to regulate those groups?
That is I presume you give me that as a rhetorical question, Senator.
I give it to you as a friendly question, actually.
Friendly question. I don't know who that would be, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from 36 for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senator Yield.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. If you would yield for a couple of questions, in particular around the issue of the dental hygienists, who would also be moved as part of the impact of this bill. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
And do you know the number of dental hygienists that are licensed by the board?
I do not, but I know there are very few that are active in their association.
Very few that are
Senator,
active in their association?
In their association, Senator, yes. I don't know the number. I beg your pardon.
Isn't it true that almost 7,000 dental hygienists are licensed compared to a little over 5,500 dentists?
That seems like a reasonable number to me. So 12,000 total.
And does it seem that under the structure that's proposed by this bill, those hygienists who are 55% of the profession would be permitted to have one seat on an 11-member board? Isn't that a little problematic?
Well, that's a terrific question, Senator, and I appreciate very much the nature of the question. And I would also offer that the hygienists are supervised by the dentists themselves, though. Well,
if you'll further yield, on the question of oversight, currently the Secretary of State's office hires and fires the division director that performs the administrative functions of the board. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
But this bill would change that, and actually the board would hire, fire, and set the salary for the executive director to the board, and thereby removing kind of any independent accountability to another balancing oversight, of which is the function that we have performed now in the Secretary of State's office, as I understand it. Isn't that true?
I think I would agree with the concept and the premise of your statement. I think also that the dentist and the pharmacist would also want to be very well regulated, and they want to, eliminate the bad players. If there are bad players, they want to further the professionalism of their industry.
Just one final couple of questions on a different point. The bill has changed some language. Under current law, the Board of Dentistry may do surveys of the dentist and the dental hygienist.
Yes, ma'am.
Under current law. And it appears that under the way that the law is being rewritten by this bill, they would be mandated to conduct surveys.
Census, yes, ma'am.
Census, thank you. And a real concern is that a failure to respond to that census would become a cause for revocation of your license. Mm-hmm. And that would apply, wouldn't it, to dental hygienists as well as dentists?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. That is true.
It seems that that's...
Think that's severe?
A real stretch to add that with a stroke of a pen, to make that a condition of licensure.
I appreciate the senator's point, and don't argue the opinion.
Thank you.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Senator. I ask for your favorable consideration of this legislation before you, and thank you very much.
Read the amendment.
Amendment 1, Senator Orrick of the 36th and others offer the following amendment. Amend House Bill 132 relating to OCGA 43-11-11 by striking the language after basis on line 978 through line 981. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from 36 to speak to her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I would refer you to the language, and we just discussed this in the exchange between the presenter of the bill and myself from my desk, but this I think does deserve a little bit closer scrutiny, and that is that with a stroke of a pen, we're making a failure to respond to a survey or a census, as it's called, a reason to revoke a license. That seems to be extreme and unwarranted and pretty much unvetted. And I will ask you to vote on this amendment, which would clarify that not to be the case, that it would not be grounds for revocation of the license. It would allow the surveys and the census to go ahead, but not make that a sole grounds for revoking a license. I appreciate your support on that amendment. Thank you. I yield the well.
You have questions you wish to answer? Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th for a question.
Will the senator yield?
I yield.
Senator, do you know how many members are going to serve on the dental board?
As I understand, it's an 11-member, would be an 11-member board as stipulated in this language.
And will the senator further yield?
I do.
Senator, is it not true there's 6,818 dental hygienists?
That's the number that's my understanding, that across our great state.
And isn't it also true that there's 5,572 dentists?
That's correct. That's my understanding. A little over 5,500 dentists.
And is it also not true that most of those dental hygienists are women?
Overwhelmingly, the profession of dental hygienists the ranks are filled with females, with rare exception, I would say.
And isn't it also not true that most of those dentists are male, but it's changing? There's more women getting into the dental field. Is that not true?
That's true.
And is it not true out of that 11-member board that you're talking about, 9 members are going to be dentists and only one member will be a dental hygienist? So is that not true that that's a disadvantage?
It seems grossly out of balance to me. And sadly, all too typical when you're dealing with a profession that's primarily female. They tend to get seated on the back row, and I think that is concerning, Senator.
Would you further yield one last question?
I do.
Is it not true that this would be the opportune time to change that balance so that women have an equal balance and parity within that board? Is that not true?
Thank you, Senator. I am in strong agreement with you. And I know that the dental hygienist that I've spoken with and their representative would agree with you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th for a question.
I can't.
No more questions, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. You know what we're talking about? I gave you a handout from Mr. Galloway. It's an editorial that was written. I put it on your desk, and it talks about what is happening with the Secretary of State. And when I look at all of this, I think about it, and I think, you know, this is really insider baseball. Nobody really cares about this at all. And we're probably right. In a state of Georgia, there's 10 million people. But the problem is, if you look up here on the board, and that's my handwriting, forgive me, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of professionals. If you look up here on the board, you see accountants, CPAs, you see barbers, chiropractors, cosmetology, geologists, funeral service, librarians, nurses, pharmacies, plumbers, podiatry, used motor vehicle dealer, utility, veterinary medicine, water, wastewater board. We are literally talking about hundreds of thousands of professionals. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the bread and butter of workers in the state of Georgia. And they have serious problems. We're not just talking about dentists and pharmacists. We're talking about this collection of professionals. And our problem is we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a little scratch, on your arm. Well, the problem is, one floor down, on the second floor of this building, insider baseball not, on the second floor we have a major hemorrhaging. We have a wound. We have a fissure in our infrastructure in the state of Georgia. And unfortunately, we have not had a governor. We have not had anyone to intervene. And I am not up here taking up for the Secretary of State's office. But I will tell you, and you know it too, because when I came in this door in January, I had senators handing me letters, handing me little pieces of paper. These are nurses in my district that cannot work. They have not worked for 3 months. And the reason they have not worked was because they could not get a license. Now you tell me, now you look at that list. Now you tell me those professionals cannot get a license. And one of the reasons they can't get a license is because of us. Because the year before, we put a mandate on the Secretary of State's office that he had to verify and investigate and look at the background. That was the E-Verify bill, the immigration bill, where he had to go through every individual license. And it created a backlog. So what did he do? The Secretary of State came to the budget meetings. He says, I can't do what I'm supposed to do. And we knew that he couldn't do what he was supposed to do. We knew that he could not take care of these people. So what did we do? Last year, we put an extra $1 million, I think it was, in his budget so that he could take care of these people. So here comes the dentist and the pharmacist. And they said, well, we're not being taken care of either. We are the bread and butter. We're the ones taking care of the people. And we're not satisfied. And I understand they're not satisfied. But I also understand there is over 140,000 registered nurses who are not satisfied. So I listened. I think I'm a good elected official. I listened. I have been listening to these professionals. So when it came time to come in January, we started having meetings, and regulated industry started having hearings on these particular bills. We went through the subcommittee and we went through the committee system, and I offered a substitute. I offered to take out the nurses, because what we're doing, we're choosing winners, and the winners right now happens to be the bill on your desk, the dentist and the pharmacist, but we got losers. We have over 155,000 nurses that are losers. So the generous chairman of Regulated Industries from the 27th District said, well, Senator, why aren't the nurses complaining? And I said, you know, I've been listening to them. I said, you want letters? I can give you letters. Do you remember on Nurses Day, on Nurses Lobbying Day, we have over 500 nurses who come in their white uniforms, in their white coats. Do you don't think I don't have a close relationship with those nurses? Well, I do, and I'm very fortunate. I could have hit the button. I could have hit the button on my computer and told that 150,000 nurses start writing letters, start making phone calls, start doing emails. But you know what? I didn't do that, because I think that's my responsibility. I'm the one playing the insider ball politics. I'm the one standing up for the nurses. And I did stand up for the nurses. I said, I don't want them to be the losers. I don't want the cemetery workers to be the losers. I don't want the CPAs to be the losers. I don't want anyone to be the loser. And I know the dentist and the pharmacist are mad at me. You can be mad at me. But someone has to put their foot down and say, look, the system is broken, and it's broken bad. And this is our bread and butter. Why don't we take care of these people instead of putting that Band-Aid, the Band-Aid you see before you on that little bitty scratch? Why are you putting that Band-Aid on? Why are you creating losers? And I started looking at it, and I started looking at it. I think I figured it out. And if we'll go to slide 2, I'll show you why. Well, here now, look at this. What we got up there now? We got campaign contributions. You know what nurses have? Nurses go to work every day, 8 hours a day. They're critical care nurses. They're taking care of the weakest of the weak. They don't have a whole lot of money. A nurse makes $75,000, $80,000 a year. They've gone to school for 8 years, 2 extra years to get their master's degree, a lot of them. You know what? They don't have disposable income. Guess who does? And guess who dumps money under the gold dome? And hey, I'll be here to testify before you. These people up there, they've given me lots of money. Lots and lots of money. I've got over $200,000 in my campaign account. These people up here have given me money. But I'm telling you what, that money doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that the system is broken. These figures up here are not everyone in this room. Now, you would think with that amount of money, that would be everyone in this room, 56 senators. This is only leadership, and this is only for a 1-2-year term. So, yes, it is true. The greasy, what is it? The The wheel that gets the most grease? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Well, you know what? I remember, let your fingers do the walking through the yellow pages. I say, let your money do the dialing through the state Senate. Because the pharmacist and the dentist had the money, and I give them credit. They've done a fabulous job on researching this. But this piece of legislation is written wrong. It's written unfairly. It's created those winners and losers. So you say, well, Renee, you're so smart. What do you want to do? I would like to create, and other states have this, and I've done some of the research on it, an allied health board, so that you have special interest, all the special interest in medicine. And at a crucial time like now, you're in the middle of a recession. You're in the middle of the biggest transformation since Medicare in the 1960s. You're transitioning into nationalized single-payer system health care. What an opportune time to take our time to study it. This bill was written by dentists and pharmacists. That's why it's slanted. That's why there's no money in the budget for this. None. Zero. And that's why you as Republicans are creating more of a bureaucracy. We already have the Composite Medical Board that is a detached agency. You are creating 2 more boards. Department of Community Health is supposed to take care of the state health benefit plan and Medicaid. Well, guess what? Now they're regulating professionals. You think they don't have trouble now. Now they're going to start regulating professionals. They cannot take care of the state health benefit plan. Everybody in here complains about that. And you know the deficit we have in Medicaid. And now you're throwing on something else to the Department of Community Health. So my answer is to slow the buggy down. I did not offer my amendment, and I admit I was defeated in the subcommittee. I was defeated in the committee. I could have come here and got defeated again. And someone asked me, well, why did you add on 155,000 nurses? It was to kill the bill, because I am not voting for this bill. I love the dentist. I know you love the dentist. They're the most effective lobbyists in this building. Every one of you knows your dentist. Everyone knows in your county your dentist. The farm pack, this money up here does not represent pharmaceutical companies. This is the farm pack. And I don't know how many members are in the farm pack. I would imagine there's 50, 60, 70, if you include all the pharmaceutical companies. I know they visit, they knock on my door. I help them. They help me. But this is just not the answer, folks. And I'm not taking up for the Secretary of State, but I will say you're not giving him the ability to do his business. And I would be complaining. I would be up here shouting in the halls. I think I'd be doing more than what he's doing. I feel sorry for him. I'm a Republican. This is a red state. He's a constitutional officer. Why not fix this fissure? Why not fix this crack? Why not take care of these professionals? Why are you creating 2 new boards with more people? It's the fox guard and the hen house. At least you had the Secretary of State regulating them. They're going to be regulating themselves. And I challenge you, I don't know how many of you have read this piece of legislation. I had to read it a couple of times. They get an executive director, they get secretaries, they get cars, they get mileage. What else do they get? Is this the Republican mantra of less government, better government, more effective government? My answer is no, because they wrote the legislation. Why can't we write the legislation and tell the Secretary of State this is the way we want it implemented, to create an allied health board, to be fair about it, to talk about the parity issues of men and women in professions? Why can't we talk about that? By the way, when you look at this, do you know how many professionals you're talking about? 430,000 professionals. That's what the Secretary of State's responsible for. So when you're choosing those winners and losers, think about the losers you're leaving behind. I don't know about you, but I'm voting no. I know it takes a lot of courage. I know it takes a lot of courage to stand up to this much money. I have that courage. And I'm willing and I'm committed to working with the dentist and the pharmacist and anyone else who wants to work with the Allied Health Board. I'm willing to work with Secretary of State, and of course I'm willing to work with the executive branch and the man standing behind me. But let's do the right thing. Let's don't rush into this. Let's don't let those fingers do the walking with the dollar bills. Let's do the right thing. Mr. President, I'll yield the will, and I ask you to vote no on this bill. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, this is one of those bills that makes perfect sense to me. Maybe that's not a good endorsement. From the followers I have, according to the board, it's not. But let me tell you something. Let me explain something. I saw this I saw this framed as a women's issue. Now, let me tell you something. I have a daughter that's 38 years old. I have a granddaughter that's 10. If you want to get sensitized and finally get to where you want to do away with that glass ceiling, have a daughter. I don't like a glass ceiling. I want anybody in here to be anything they want to be in here or out there. If they want to be it, bad enough, pursue it. I'll help you if I can. But this is not a woman's or man's issue. This is an issue about qualified people, judging qualified people, and not from some state office that really has very few professionals in it to be hiring the people that oversee these professionals that spend 8 years of their lives respectively, including the nurses. The doctors and pharmacists spend 8 years of their lives in post-secondary education. Now, because of that, we go to them as professionals. We trust what they say. Who's qualified to oversee them? Secretary of State? I served with him. I like him, but I don't think so. I don't think he's in any way qualified. Now, he had 2 years of 1,700 nurses that weren't going to have their licenses. He had 2 years. I was trying to find out how many employees the Secretary of State's office has, but I didn't have time. But he had 2 years to do this. That's the reason I was shocked when I found out that these people weren't notified. A mailing would have notified them as to what needed to be done. But I would tell you that, quite frankly, it makes me feel a little better that dentists and pharmacists will be regulated, hopefully, as the Composite Board of Medical Examiners do, by the people that know what they're talking about. Now, I'm not against the nurses being included, too, to the senator from the 45th. I'm for the nurses bill, by the way. The advanced practice nursing that somebody dropped the ball on, I guess. I don't disagree with an Allied Health Board. I think your futuristic thinking is great. But I think that this is timely, and it does pick out two very professional fields, because I want the best to serve me and my family. And I'll tell you, you talk about revenues that they furnish the state. I furnish a lot of revenue to those dentists. I'm not even going to tell you how many, but I put 2 or 3 miles together. Let me say something about the numbers of people, too. You're talking about 6,600 dentists and 5,872 dental hygienists. Well, that's a ratio of 55% supervisors and 45% support group. Excuse me, I love you, Senator, but you come down here when you're ready to tell me I'm wrong, and I probably am on my math. But I will tell you that ratio is not bad in that field if you've got that many people that are professional and that many people with 2-year degrees, because there is a difference in education there. Now, if I'm wrong about that, tell me, but I don't think I am. Somebody said the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Well, if it squeaks long enough, you'll change the tire. It's time to change the tire and take those professional licensees out of the Secretary of State's office where there's no qualified group, I think, to be able to rate them or to judge them on their discipline, and put it in a professional board that makes them better and better and better. Again, because I want the best. Now, somebody talked about government growing. Listen, I've been in both places. I've had the pencil and had to be up here talking about things, and in my mind I'm saying, what in the are you saying? Because I wasn't always carrying my own water. But when you take over and you're the majority, you got to govern. It's not easy, is it? And the needs are never going to be smaller. The needs in our society are going to grow. So I feel for you when you talk about criticizing people for bigger government. I don't like it either. But sometimes you have to do things. And quite frankly, I think it's a very important bill to pass. And I'm sorry I disagree with some of my dearest friends on that. But it's an excellent bill, and it's time that we get more and more professional in this state and reward those folks who have invested their lifetimes in trying to help us. That's all I have to say on the matter. No questions, I assume.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd. You yield for a question?
I think so.
Senator Yield?
I think so.
Isn't it true that you and I agree that this is an important bill to pass?
Yes.
Isn't it true? I'm not trying to trick you right now.
Yes, it is. I feel much better.
Would you agree with me that if we had a state government that properly understood where its revenues were needed and could come from, that we could devote more of the licensing fees to the actual administration of the licensing process?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think we've got a lot of room for improvement, but I'll even admit that we had a lot of room for improvement when we were holding the stick.
And wouldn't you agree that it's not a partisan issue to ensure that you're using, for example, licensing fees for a purpose to which they're intended?
That's right. It's not a gender issue and it's not a partisan issue. It's just, quite frankly, the qualifications and the number of years invested in becoming that professional. Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I come before you today in favor of House Bill 132. And I want to just cover a couple of things very quickly. I know that the day is getting late and we need to move on, and we will. First of all, I want to make sure everyone understands. A lot has been said today about how did this bill get here? How did it all of a sudden appear? Well, let me tell you how this underlying bill got here. It got here through the process. For the last 2 years, at least, even before, but at least the last 2 years, the Board of Pharmacy and the Board of Dentistry have been talking and conferring about this bill. This has been vetted. It's gone through the process in the House, gone through the committee process, been voted on in the House, gone through the process here in the Senate, and now it's here on the Senate floor. This is something that has gone through the complete process. A lot's been said about the money part of it. The money's going to change. The money's not going to change. The money stays just like it is. The fees go into the revenue. The governor decides the revenue, and then the governor proposes a budget. The House proposes a budget, the Senate proposes a budget. It is not dedicated to any certain field, and that's not going to change. It stays just the way it is now. Now, how is this going to work? How is it going to save us money? Well, the economies of scale. The Composite Medical Board has already offered the Dental Board and the Pharmacy Board office space, sharing IT, sharing investigators. This is the economies of scale that will help to save us money. And we understand that, and we all want to work together in that respect. Now, some senators have been up here and said, well, we're picking winners and we're picking losers. Nothing could be further from the truth. You know that the Secretary of State proposed that all the boards be under some super board that didn't have anyone who was in a profession under those boards, nor were they married to anyone under the profession and that was a member of the professions. Even before that happened, pharmacy and dentistry were talking about this, talking about being under the Department of Community Health. This is something, again, that has been completely vetted. It's gone through the process. It's been studied. I ask you to look at this very carefully. This improves professional medical professions in the state of Georgia. It helps us. I am not going to be, I refuse to be, drawn into the gender battle, and I will not. I know too many fine female pharmacists. I know too many fine female dentists, too many fine male pharmacy technicians, and too many fine male dental hygienists, and I will not be drawn into that battle. It has absolutely nothing to do with this. I ask for your support of this bill. This is a bill that has gone through the process. It has been vetted. It is something that we need to do that will make for better medical health care in the state of Georgia. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Senator is not yielding for your question. State your inquiry, Senator.
Is it not true that the senator that just spoke is a pharmacist?
All right, now we're not going to get, let's tone that down. Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to talk about the dental profession. And I also want to talk about a little bit about the pharmacy profession also. The dental profession is a noble profession. They are our neighbors, they are our community leaders, they are concerned Georgians. And part about being a concerned Georgian, you must be a good steward. And dentists from across this state have been good stewards. And a part of being a good steward is inviting legislators to become around them and even raising money. Even raising money because elected leaders not only represent dentists, they represent all of Georgia. And dentists have pledged themselves to help you do your job. Is that wrong? I don't think so. I don't think it's wrong to be a good steward. There is nothing wrong with dentists wanting to be good stewards and help this body. Now there have been people talking about them like they're evil. Some evil body coming down here to enact an evil legislation on this body. That is far from the case. Dentists, the dental profession, in the Capitol constantly, always at a source of giving advice. The pharmacy profession, every year they come down here and give advice, guide us, give us their opinion. Now, they're not partisan, because they showed you lists about contributions. You can see that, they're not partisan. They give Republicans and Democrats. In fact, if they were a part of any party, they'll be a part of the Green Party. So I urge you members that the pharmacy organization, the dental organization are not evil groups. They're just good stewards, good Americans, good Georgians. Mr. President, I yield the will.
He's not answering any questions, and I'm not taking any parliamentary inquiries. All right. Questions on the adoption. You want to close? Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th. Close the debate.
Mr. President, I'll be very brief. Senator from the 45th makes some great points. And I applaud the intent of the senator from the 45th and the senator from the 36th, I think, amendment. This is not about gender. It's not about nurses. It's about the dental and the pharmacy boards. And if the senators from the 36th and 45th, I would be delighted to work with you on that allied health board. I mean, creating that board. I think that's a great idea. I think it's a very noble idea, and it's be good for Georgia and be good for the citizens of Georgia. I don't know how much money I have in my campaign account. I don't know, and I don't know how much money any dentist gave me or pharmacist, but it wasn't very much. I can tell you that. And I didn't do this because of campaign contributions. I did this because I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like it was an efficient thing to do. I felt like it was good government. And as far as it being gender related, let me tell you, man, I'm crazy about women. One in particular. But I appreciate the spirit and the intent of the ladies from the 45th and the 36th. And as far as Mr. Galloway's opinion, I'm sure he's got many great opinions, but he doesn't write public policy, and I wouldn't call on him to do that. I would ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 132, and I'd ask you to decline I'd ask you to reject the amendment that's offered, and let's get on with business. I yield the will. Thank you, Mr. President.
You yield for a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
For the senator from the first.
Does the senator yield?
Sure.
Senator, isn't
yes,
it true that the amendment that's being offered actually will eliminate one of the most important parts of this bill, and that is the census that is to be completed by applicants when they apply for a license. And in order to have workforce development in this state, we need to know where pharmacists are working, where pharmacy techs are working, where there's a shortage of dentists, so that we can identify that and target that in the state.
The senator is very, very knowledgeable of the subject he speaks.
And will you yield?
Yes.
And isn't it true that if we adopt amendment number 1, that we won't be able to do that? Therefore, isn't it true that I'm opposed to amendment number 1?
You stated it clearly, Senator.
Senator from 36 is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, in order to clarify the point about the census
Yes,
and
ma'am.
gathering data, isn't it true that my amendment simply strikes lines 978 through 981 and in no way interferes with the language requiring census data to be gathered and stipulating what that data should be? My amendment simply says that failure to respond should not be grounds,
Yes, ma'am.
sole grounds for revoking a license. That's a very modest adjustment to, and no way interferes with the census. Isn't that true?
Yes, ma'am. I agree with the statement that you made. However, I'd also point out that in order to get in this field, you have to fill out that census. So it's kind of the price of admission to get in the field. So it should be, in this particular case, it's the price of admission to stay in the field. And though it is severe in that respect, and that if you don't fill it out, you're out of business, so to speak. But it's also, that's what you do when you sign up. You knew that when you're going in. Thank you, Senator.
No further questions, Senator. All right. No further questions.
Appreciate your favorable vote on House Bill 132. Thank you.
Just been informed the House has adjourned. Question is on amendment number 1. Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor, rise, stand, and be counted. Moving the yeas and nays. All those in favor, vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the amendment, the yeas are 17 and the nays are 32, and the amendment has lost. The question now is on. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection granted? Report committee which favor pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 45th is recognized.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that if you're voting with 165,000 nurses in the state of Georgia, you're voting red?
Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st.
Mr. President, isn't it true that nothing could be further from the truth, that this bill has nothing at all to do with nurses?
A lot of passion in the room, a lot of passion in the room. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 8. This bill, having received a constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator on the 49th. Your light's on? Nope. Senator from the 27th. Where's the senator from the 27th? Senator from the 27th. Senator from the 27th, I know you're being distracted by House members. They got nothing else to do but be over here and pester senators. Senator from the 27th, Senator. No, Senator. Senator. Senator from the 27th, is this bill an important bill in which needs to be taken up tonight, or would you like to put it on the table?
Mr. President, that is completely up to you. It's okay with me if we put it on the table.
Well, I'll accept that motion.
I'll make that a motion to table House Bill 139.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill has been laid on the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th. How important is this piece of legislation?
Mr. President, this is a piece of legislation to fix issues that have arisen from. I'll make a motion to table.
I think that's a great motion. That motion is in order.
And I'll make a motion to table House Bill 156 while I'm standing.
Well, I'll wait on that one.
Oh, well.
Is there objection? Without objection, that bill will be tabled as well. Senator from the 23rd, how important is that legislation?
Mr. President, I would sure like that to be tabled.
I think the author's back there in the back of the room. I'll accept that motion to table. Is there objection? Without objection, that bill is going to be tabled. Chair recognizes Senator from the 23rd again on House Bill 160.
Sorry to hold it up. That needs to be tabled, Mr. President.
Bill needs to be tabled. Is there objection? Laying the bill on the table. Senator from the 25th is recognized. How important is this piece of legislation, Senator?
Mr. President, I move to table it.
Is there objection? Without objection, we're going to lay that bill on the table. Senator from the 52nd is recognized.
Mr. President, I would move that bill be tabled.
Moving that bill to be tabled. Is there objection? Without objection, that bill is going to be tabled. Chair recognizes Senator from the 23rd.
Mr. President.
Yes. How important is this piece of legislation?
179?
Or 182?
I was looking up on the 182 needs to be tabled.
Needs to be tabled. Is there objection? Without objection, bill will be laid on the table. Secretary will read House Bill 188.
House Bill 188 by Representative Coomer of the 14th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 43 of the OCGA relating to professions and businesses so as to provide that certain military certifications shall entitle persons to obtain certain professional licenses and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th to present the bill.
Maybe we should have. No, I'm kidding.
House Bill 188. This is a great bill for veterans. I'll cut to the chase. Obviously, it's been a long day. This bill helps veterans who have specific training in a couple of areas get expedited in their ability to get licenses in those areas so that they can come back home and move from their military career into their civilian career and begin collecting a paycheck and moving on with their lives. I'll give you the exact areas whose lives it'll affect. Electrical contractors, air conditioning professionals, plumbers, residential light and commercial light contractors, and utility foremen. I think we all have, Mr. President, can you help me with this?
All right, let me have the Senate's attention. Let me have the Senate's attention. There is entirely too much chatter going on in the chamber. I don't want to kick all the House members out of the Senate, but it wouldn't be the first time that has happened. I want the chamber quietened so the senator will be given the respect in which he is due in presenting this bill. Senator will continue.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I think we all have in our hearts and in our minds a desire to help veterans. We struggle at times to figure out what we can do. They come home a lot of times with post-traumatic stress syndrome and other emotional scars, etc. But one of the big tragedies is a lot of times they have a difficulty finding a job. And this is a bill that actively engages in the process to help them translate their military skills that they've learned into a civilian occupation. So I'm going to yield for any questions, but I would ask for your favorable consideration of this bill. I would mention that this is an administration bill that has been worked on very hard by the Director of Workforce Development, and of course the House passed it out almost unanimously. It's got the support of the Georgia Chamber. The National Federation of Independent Businesses has spoken favorably on it. And of course, our former member of this body and the tag of the state of Georgia is greatly in support of this bill. So I would yield for your questions.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd for a question. Senator from the 42nd, your light's on for a question. No, that's something else. Chair recognizes Senator from 27th for a question.
Will Senator Hill?
Yes, I will.
Isn't it true that during the committee process that we spent over an hour and a half talking about this bill and getting testimony from various contractors, plumbers, electricians, and the workforce development people? Is it not true that we spent that much time on this? The only ones that was opposed to this was the Highback people. Is that not true?
That is true.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we had discussed this bill at length in the committee process. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator. Any other questions?
There are no questions. Has the amendment been read? Read the amendment. No further questions.
Amendment
Senator.
1. Senator McCune of the 29th offers the following amendment. Amend House Bill 188 by replacing line 66 with the following. Issuance of such license provided further that an applicant for licensure as a conditioned air contractor class 1 shall successfully complete the examination required by subsection E of Code Section 43-14-8 and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree wholeheartedly with the senator from the 6th that this is a very good bill. I think it's trying to accomplish a very good purpose. However, I do believe that it can be further perfected Hence, I've brought forward Amendment 1 for your consideration. All Amendment 1 does, if you look at line 66 on page 3, it takes the language that's there and adds to it that an applicant for licensure as a conditioned air contractor Class 1 shall successfully complete the examination required by subsection E of Code Section 43-14-8. What that means is that under no circumstances will someone simply be able to waive in and get the HVAC license. Why is that important? The other trades that are covered in this legislation, they're talking about an entry-level license. But when it comes to HVAC contracting, there is only one license. So there is not a situation as with the other occupations where you're working in an apprenticeship or journeyman capacity where you have supervision. In this case, if we don't make this amendment, we could potentially be putting a situation in place where someone simply based on prior experience could have that license issued without any test and go right into being an owner-operator of an HVAC business. I do not think that is fair or equitable, so I would support and ask for your support of Amendment 1, which simply would require that any applicant for that license would have to take the written exam. And I'll yield for any questions. If there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
There is a question. Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd.
Senator Yield?
Yes, sir.
So basically, we are still giving the veteran credit for the education that he would have received because he's been in that field in the service, but he would still comply with the test. And that's the only thing he would have to do is prove that was his MOS and then come and take the test.
That is absolutely correct. The educational component could be waived. The only requirement that we're asking is the written examination.
No further question. Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the sponsor indicated, this is a bill supported by the administration of Georgia, and I rise in opposition to Amendment 1 because it undermines the structure that is attempted to be created by the bill. The senators have both stated accurately that the purpose is to accelerate our military personnel into the workforce. The difference, as pointed out by the chairman from the 29th, is that for HVAC operators, there's not an entry-level position. If that industry wants to adopt an entry-level position, I think it would be appropriate to revisit this code section. But it would not be appropriate to say to our military personnel that if you want to enter this profession and you are otherwise qualified, you would be treated differently from all of your peers. I ask you to vote down the amendment and please vote in favor of the bill. Mr. President, I believe there might be a question. Otherwise, I'll yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator from 33rd for a question.
Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator, did you know there wasn't really an MOS or a rating for an HVAC rating in the service?
I have not made reference to MOS.
Well,
no,
you have in such a way that we've been told, and you know, I'm a veteran, but it's been many years, that there is not really a rating, you know, such as a specialist, this, that, and the other, as an MOS or whatever, that's what they call them, in the service for that. So while there's force there and things like that, and on aircraft carrier, for instance, there's not actually in many parts of the service even that rating. So doesn't that give you some cause for some concern?
Senator, it does not. I would defer to my friend from the 6th to educate all of us on the current standards in our armed services. But the point I would say in response to that is if there are no eligible individuals, in other words, no one who meets the criteria, they won't be getting an HVAC license. They still have to demonstrate that their military service qualifies them.
Further yield.
I yield.
Kind of makes one wonder why we need the law. But I would say to you that just to take the test and be given credit for all the education, which takes some people 3 or 4 years. And speaking as a disabled veteran, that you think that's too much to ask for them to go into our homes in the future and possibly not be as qualified to save us the money or fix our air conditioning or our from everything from the use of it to our safety. We have to think about these things, don't we?
I always respect the Dean's judgment as to what is too much. I believe the bill addresses the concerns of the public appropriately. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will. I ask you to vote against Amendment 1 and in favor of the bill.
Senators yielded the will. Chair recognizes Senator from the... Hold on. We have a late arriving amendment. Secretary will read the amendment.
Amendment 1A, Senator Crane of the 28th offers the following amendment. On line 3, after Class 1, insert and/or electrical contractor Class 1. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 28th to present his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some very good statements have been made in support of those who choose to serve in our military, and I support all those statements. Some very valid concerns have been raised with regards to licensing and those qualifications. This just adds to the senators from the 29th District that electrical contractors shall also be required to take a test. Both the air conditioners Class 1 and the electricians Class 1, both of those licenses currently require testing. And in lieu of that, if there is no equal to that within the military, I think it is safe to say that for the good of all Georgians, that testing should remain in place. The other two areas of opportunity that we are presenting to our military veterans is that of journeymen and that of foremen on utility contractors. Neither one of those positions require a test as I understand it. So I think this is an appropriate measure to take for the protection of all Georgians. If we think licensing is important, if we think testing of licensing is important, then we should not differentiate under the law how we treat people just because they choose to serve or not serve in our military. If the goal is the health, safety, and welfare of all Georgians, we must be judicious in our equal application of the law. If there's any questions, Mr. President, I would yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator from 27th for a question.
Senator, will you yield?
Certainly, Senator.
Under this legislation, the process is they present an application. Okay, they present an application, and they present it to a board of their peers who presumably know a good bit about, what they're doing and the profession that they represent. So they can either deny or accept the application. The bill also says that it has to meet or exceed the requirements now set in Georgia. And I just think that it's fair that our military coming back from serving our country in Afghanistan and all, that we give them a place to work. Would you not agree with that?
I know you're quite passionate about that, as am I, that we should treat our military veterans with the greatest respect and deference in getting them back to work here in Georgia.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, if there's no other questions, I'll yield the will.
There are no other questions, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th. Close the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that we need to be very cautious when looking at these amendments, and here's the main reason why. As legislators, we want to make laws that are clear and concise, but that don't spell out every little detail. And in this case of requiring that there be a test, it sort of usurps the power of the boards. The boards that we appoint for each industry have industry experience and professionalism, and currently the board requires a test for HVAC professionals. But maybe in 10 years they'll decide that they don't need a test, and then that will make this law obsolete, because the law As it's written, I'll point to the law. On line 30 through 33, it says, immediate issuance of a license or certification based upon his or her having obtained a military specialty or certification, the training or experience for which should, and this is the key, substantially meet or exceed the requirements to obtain a license or certification identified in subsection B. So the board, who is there to professionally watch over their industry, is going to make sure that these applicants substantially meet or exceed the requirements that that board has laid out. Adding additional language that they take a test is not necessary. I will point to the board rule. This is the rule that the board currently has. There are 10 separate requirements. 1, submit an application. 2, score 70% on an open book exam. This is the amendment y'all are wanting to put in, is to have an exam. It's already in the law of the board rules. 4, and 5, obtain 3 character reference letters from architects, engineers, inspector, conditioned air contractor. Those are the kinds of things being waived by this, because these people have been in the military. They don't need these character references from the private sector. So again, we don't need to go through all of them. We just need to be very judicious. I speak against the amendments. This has been highly vetted. It's got the support of the Associated General Contractors and multiple people in that field, and I would ask for your favorable consideration and to vote down the amendments. Thank you very much.
Okay, the question is on Amendment 1A, authored by the senator from the 28th. Is there objection? There is objection to 1A. All those in favor of 1A will rise, stand, and be counted. If you're in favor of 1A, rise, stand, and be counted. Reverse. On the amendment 1A, the yeas are 9 and the nays are 30, and the amendment has lost. Now the question is on amendment number 1, authored by the senator from the 29th. All those in favor, is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor, rise, stand, and be counted. If you are in favor of amendment 1, authored by the senator from the 29th. Reverse. On the amendment number 1, authored by the senator on the 29th, the yeas are 15, nays are 29, and the amendment is lost. Now, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agreeing to Porter Committee, which fair will pass the bill? Chairs none, Porter Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chairs none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 3, and this bill, AMC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Senator from the 29th is recognized to table this bill.
Move to table House Bill 189.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will be tabled. Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th.
President, I move to table House Bill 199.
Y'all are good learners. Is there objection? Without objection, the bill has been tabled. Chair recognizes Senator 29th.
Move to table House Bill 215.
Without objection, 215 has been tabled. Chair recognizes Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to table House Bill 226.
Without objection, 226 has been tabled. Secretary will read House Bill 240.
House Bill 240 by Representative Carson of the 46th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the OCGA related to medical assistance generally so as to require Medicaid and peach care for kids, reimbursement for certain speech language pathology services, and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th.
Mr. President, I rise to bring to you and the members of the Senate House Bill 240. House Bill 240 requires Medicaid and peach care reimbursement for certain speech pathology language services. It requires the DCH to ensure that services are provided by speech language pathologists who are clinical fellows licensed by the State Board of Examiners for speech language pathology and audiology are reimbursed as medical assistants under Medicaid or peach care in the same amount that we've been paid in services if provided by a licensed speech and language pathologist. This speech and language pathology requires undergraduate and graduate degrees. They pass a final exam. They have approximately 400 hours of supervised therapy. They're licensed by Georgia in a provisional license during this time period, and they work under a speech language pathologist during this period. They need 9 months of residency to become a full speech language pathology. It allows clinical fellows to work in the setting so that they can draw down the dollars or bill for the dollars that make them attractive for employment. If there are any questions, Mr. President, I'd be glad to take them.
No questions, sir.
Thank you, sir. I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 240. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection agreed in the Report of Committee which failed pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. like to recognize our good friend and former Senator Doug Stoner that's joining us tonight on his 39th day. Good to have you back visiting. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 2. This bill, MC Rex Constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary will read House Bill 244.
House Bill 244 by Representative Nix of the 69th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to revise certain provisions relating to annual performance evaluations and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator on 37th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I bring you House Bill 244. This is a bill that deals with an issue that has needed addressing for a long time, which is a statewide common teacher and administrative assessment tool to be used in our schools. State law requires teachers be evaluated every year by administration, but there are no specific guidelines by which that will be done. There has been a great deal of consternation among our professional teachers throughout the state about what a teacher evaluation would look like, and they had due concern about the fairness of it. This evaluation instrument has been vetted, it has been piloted, and overwhelmingly those who participated in it attested to its fairness because it does not take the ending score of a student to rank how well a teacher did, but it measures true achievement and net gain scores of what a student achieved in a particular teacher's class in a particular year. Also significant in this legislation is the fact that a teacher is not held responsible for a student that was not in her class, their class, 65% of the time, from the time school started in the fall to the time the testing instrument was given. There are many external factors that affect a teacher's ability to effectively teach that they have very little control over. And this instrument takes into consideration the contributing factors such as transiency, socioeconomics, students who do not speak or who speak English as a second language, and also students with disabilities. This is an evaluation instrument for teachers and administrators, and I believe it's a huge step forward into being able to evaluate who our best teachers are instead of having a two-step criteria. This has 4 categories of assessment. Exceeds expectations, meets expectations, needs improvement, and basically an ineffective teacher. I commend this bill to you and ask for your support of it. It's a huge step forward in education reform in the state of Georgia. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
I do have a question. Chair recognizes Senator on the 42nd for a question.
Will Senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Does this bill mandate the specific evaluation system, or does it provide that the State Board of Education is going to develop one?
The State Board of Education is developing the evaluation instrument. They have piloted it, and it is available for your review. It has different domains that they give different weights for. Student achievement accounts, just net raw gain scores account for 50% of the evaluation, but it also has other evaluations that take into some of the external factors that I spoke of. But the state has developed the evaluation instrument.
And will Senator further yield?
Absolutely.
is it possible? I have a charter system in my district, for example, that has flexibility with respect to certain things in the State Board of Education. Is it possible that type of system would that the State Board of Education would provide a menu of evaluation options, or will it have a single evaluation system?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you for the noise.
I'm sorry. Does this mandate a particular evaluation system, or does it allow? I guess my question is it possible that the State Board will allow some flexibility with respect to the evaluation system that gets used ultimately?
It's a unified system. The same system will be used uniformly. I think that's the only way that you can get any true measure. If you have variations in your assessment piece, it's too easy to game the system.
Thank you, sir.
Won't hurt charter systems, I can promise you. Chair recognizes Senator from 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Absolutely.
Senator, again, I share some of the same concerns. With this measure, one of the things that the State Board and education systems all across the state of Georgia has done is not provided for training for its teachers and staff persons. In this bill, I do see language in here where you establish a process for requirements for teachers to go and get training, but it doesn't speak to how they pay for it. Do you address that anywhere in this bill, or
are you talking about the evaluators? They have the people who will be evaluating the test will be trained. Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand that, but one of the things that has been done over the last several years is that with unfunded mandates, etc., teachers have not been able to get continuing ed training and have that paid for. With this measure, do we do anything to try to solve that problem moving forward?
This does not address funding of additional funding for continuing education or teacher training.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from 39th.
Well, Senator Yield.
Absolutely.
If a teacher under the scheme that is envisioned within this bill, if there is a teacher who does not meet satisfactory criteria in terms of teaching, what would be the process after that? Would they be dismissed? Would they get the kind of remediation? Would they get mentoring? Would they have a teacher mentor? What would happen at that point?
Yes, I would say all of the above. I think that there'd be some latitude with each individual system, but as is currently the case, if you have a teacher that has an unsatisfactory evaluation, they have a professional development plan known as a PDP that they go through. And I think one of the positive aspects of this instrument is you can drill down specifically where the weaknesses are and put the resources in development where the deficiency specifically is.
Chair recognizes Senator 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Absolutely.
There's several references in here to the evaluators. Could you enlighten me as to, are these currently employed professionals that are evaluating our teachers? Is this an expansion of services? And does this responsibility and financial burden fall to the local school districts, or is this a burden of the State Board of Education?
This would fall within the purview of the local Board of Education, but this does provide for the training requirements of the evaluators.
Are these existing personnel, Senator, or are these new personnel?
These are existing personnel.
Okay, thank you.
I yield away.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree in the Porter Committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Porter Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Or are there any objections? Chairs none. The main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0. And this bill, amnesty revokes constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we table House Bill 250.
Is there objection? Without objection, 250 is going to be tabled. Secretary read House Bill 276.
House Bill 276 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the OCGA relating to hazardous site response so as to change certain procedures regarding appropriations and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Natural Resources and the Environment recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. The Natural Resources and Environment Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 276. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 12 of the OCGA relating to hazardous site response so as to change certain procedures regarding appropriations to the Department of Natural Resources and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. The Hazardous Waste Trust Fund is set to expire on July 1st of this year. What this does is this bill extends the program for another 5 years, and Mr. President, if there's no questions, I'll yield the way.
Chair recognizes Senator number 26 for a question.
Senator Yield?
Yes.
Is there any money left in the fund?
Yes, there's, I don't have the exact number in front. Well, yes, I do. I can go through some of the numbers. At the end of fiscal year 2012, since we started this fund, $272 million had been collected from fees, and a total of $166.8 million has been spent. During this same time, $33 million has been sent back to local governments to help clean up sites. And there's $58 million been used to clean up orphan sites that we couldn't find out who owned the property.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd for a question.
Will Senator yield?
Yes.
How is the Senate substitute different from the House bill? Seems like the House had a lot of stuff in here.
They had added some language and it was taken out, and I'm not sure exactly what that was.
Will Senator further yield?
Yes.
Does it have to do with whether or not we appropriate funds that are collected as a part of the hazardous waste fund and then send them somewhere else?
I don't know the exact wording, but that does sound familiar.
And is there a reason the Senate took that out?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you, Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 9th.
Will the senator yield?
Yes.
Is it not true that this bill is not the bill that had to do with the hazardous waste fund as far as what the senator from DeKalb County was talking about?
As the senator says.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree in a report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chairs none, and the main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 37th, stand by. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0, and this bill, AMC reps constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary will read House Bill 284 as a favor to the senator from the 41st. Oh, I didn't say that.
House Bill 284 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 15 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Quality Basic Education Act and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Through the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 37th, Distinguished Education Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I bring you House Bill 284 that has been known as the Return to Play Injury Bill or the Head Injury Bill. This bill deals with our students who are involved in sports activities of our public schools, and also has to do with public recreation facilities. This bill is aimed primarily as an educational tool to identify and educate people as to the risk of head injuries in different activities, and to educate those who are supervising these activities that they may be alerted to a possible head injury if one exists. This bill does mandate that each local board of education and administration of a nonprofit school and governing body of charter schools shall adopt and implement a concussion management and return to play policy comprising the three components. Number one, that you inform the parents and guardians of the nature and the risk of concussion and head injury. If a student is participating and exhibits the symptoms of having a concussion, then that athlete shall be removed from the game or competition to be evaluated by a healthcare provider. And if the child is deemed to have sustained a head injury or concussion, they will be under the care of the healthcare provider, either on a graduated return to play or a full return to play policy. The Department of Public Health shall initiate and endorse an education program to carry out the desires of this bill has been endorsed by the NFL, it's been endorsed by the CDC, and most public health agencies. This is about good health for our kids. I think all of us have probably known people who have sustained head injuries and have been put back into play prior to the time that they should have. That's evidenced by the fact maybe that some of us have even run for the Senate after sustaining a head injury. Mr. President, if there are no other questions, I'll yield the well.
There is a question. Chair recognizes Senator from 26, former football star.
Senator, yeah.
Always my friend from the 26.
Senator, as you described, I have a problem with the first part of the bill, 20 through 23, and that is a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, or a certified trainer. In most instances, in a concussion, usually in youth sports and even in high school, there is not a physician attendant there. It usually is the EMS. And somebody comes in, and then if it's a head injury and they feel like it's a concussion or there might be something wrong with the neck, then they put a brace on, don't take the helmet off, and wait till they get to the emergency room. If it's a concussion, they usually do the examination and then take on to the emergency room. And the question I have is, it ought to be a physician and not just somebody.
Yes, sir. It's someone who is certified in that field to evaluate them.
It's kind of hard to find somebody certified in that field unless they're a neurosurgeon or something like that.
Well, I understand that, and it doesn't call for a neurosurgeon.
I know it doesn't.
But I would direct your attention to the fact that this evaluation would be done after the youth competitor exhibits symptoms of a possible head injury or concussion, and sometimes this is going to be a judgment call. And in this bill also, in lines 63 through 70, limits the liability, or actually prohibits a liability for an act or omission for an improper judgment call. As I said, this is not about putting people in jail because they made a bad decision. This is about educating people about the nature of head injuries and trying to get students and athletes treatment as soon as they can.
No further questions, Senator.
I yield the will. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 54 speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I have often wondered what exactly it felt like to be the senator from the 33rd on occasion in this well, and I have experienced that on this bill because I am for what the bill tries to accomplish, and I have concerns about what it may result in our society. I am going to vote for the bill, and I'd ask you to do the same. In doing so, because I know a lot of folks that are interested in this, and I heard all the list of wonderful folks in the NFL and the Falcons, I know they're listening, and what I want to say is to that body, that group of people who regulate athletics, please, please increase your penalties for targeting the heads of opponents. Because I have seen and coached with folks who I am sorry to say will take advantage of the incentive this bill creates. 15 yards in football is not a big penalty if the star on the other team has a symptom of concussion and must leave the game for the rest of the game. There will be people who take that approach, and I wish it were not so. So please, as a father who loves the heads of two little boys who love football, know that I know this is the right thing to do to protect our kids. And I also fear the darker side of athletics because I've seen it, I've played against it, coached against it, and we need to protect our young people. Not just, we talk football, it's other sports too. Just make sure that what you're asking for, you're prepared to get. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection agreed in the Porter Committee which fail to pass the bill? Chairs none. Porter Committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chairs none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd. What purpose you rise?
To Senate Room 14.1-D.
Too late. It's too late. You can register with the clerk. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 3. And this bill, having received constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is with great regret that the Representative Powell from the 32nd didn't have the influence to keep the chambers over in the House, so I'd like to move to table House Bill 296.
Well said. Is there objection? Without objection, and Representative Powell, glad to welcome you to the Senate in a very official way by tabling your bill. Go forth and spread the news. Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st.
You want me to present the bill?
Table, Senator. It's the easiest thing to do.
Motion to, I'm sorry. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to table House Bill 302.
Is there objection? Without objection, it has been tabled. Chair recognizes Senator from the 7th.
Mr. President, in honor of the representative from the 32nd being here, I move to table House Bill 323.
Here. He showed up right at the right time. Is there objection? Without objection, the representative's bill will be tabled. Secretary will read House Bill 324.
House Bill 324 by Representative Dollar of the 45th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 50-36-1 of the OCGA relating to requirements, procedures, and conditions for verification of lawful presence within the United States and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass. Amendment 1, Senator Hill of the 32nd offers the following amendment. Amend House Bill 324 by inserting after authority on line 5 to prohibit the requirement of certain documents, and by inserting after 1623 on line 17, the Georgia Student Finance Commission and Georgia Student Finance Authority shall not require the submission of the federal free application for federal student aid and for other purposes. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Senator from 32nd to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. This House bill is actually my Senate Bill 187. We passed it out of here a few weeks ago, and it simply does this, is it prohibits the Student Finance Commission from requiring the federal student aid form and tax returns annually for our students who are eligible for the Hope Scholarship, for the Merit Hope Scholarship. So this would prohibit that from happening, and when I get back to my seat, I will withdraw my amendment so that this bill can move along to the governor's office if it's the will of the Senate to pass this legislation. With that, Mr. President, I ask for your favorable consideration. It's identical to our legislation, and thank you, Mr. President, for pulling this up or bringing this up for a vote, and I'll yield the well. Thank you.
Easy now. Shouting from the floor. We have an amendment. Has it been read? The amendment is the Senate. Chair recognizes Senator from the 32nd.
Mr. President, I move to withdraw amendment number 1 to HB 324.
Is
by
there
unanimous
objection?
consent.
Without objection, the amendment has been withdrawn. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Grant report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chairs none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54 and the nays are 1. And this bill, I see requires constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. With great indigestion, I will table House Bill 320. The whole world's riding on it for me, but y'all don't worry about me.
Is there objection? Without objection, it is tabled. Are you really objecting to that? Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Mr. President, I know the members want to vote on nursing again, but I'm going to make a unanimous support to table House Bill 332.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will be laid on the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 52nd.
Mr. President, I make a move that we table House Bill 337.
Without objection, make that move. I tell you, that's almost like the senator from the 26th getting his groove on a little bit earlier. Without objection, that bill is going to be laid on the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we table House Bill 338.
Is there objection? Without objection, that bill will be laid on the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we table House Bill 365.
That's the Colonel's bill. Without objection, it's going to be laid on the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st again.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we table House Bill 366.
Is there objection? Without objection, it will be laid on the table. Secretary will read the last bill of the day, HB 381.
House Bill 381 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 12-2-6 of the OCGA relating to the authority of the Department of Natural Resources to arrange for and accept federal aid and cooperation and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Natural Resources and the Environment recommends that this bill do pass. Through with the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th. While he's coming, let me just make sure everyone knows we had ordered food in tonight because, as you know, the Senate had prepared to work way into the wee hours because of a very long calendar trying to accommodate House members and other things. Of course, we've been disrespected, and we're going to end up closing shop a little early tonight. But dinner is coming, and it should be here in less than 10 minutes. Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. The mission of the Georgia National Resource Foundation, which is a not-for-profit corporation, is to support the efforts of DNR. This legislation states that the foundation shall always include 3 members of the DNR board who shall serve as non-voting members, and these are also non-paid or volunteer positions. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the way on.
No question, Senator. Only you, Luke. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection to agreeing to report of committee which failed to pass the bill? Chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? The chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? The question is on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Would like, we have some pages that still have been here working so very hard that we're so honored they've hung in here with us even though the House couldn't. We have pages that have outworked the House tonight. Ryan Bolton, Lawson Dial, Jake Lee, and Isaac Aragoyan. All right. Good job. Well done. Doesn't take much to outwork a House member, but I tell you, that's beautiful. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 0. And this bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the distinguished majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the remainder of the House bills be laid on the table. I ask unanimous consent. And House resolutions. And anything else.
Be careful with anything else. There are a lot of folks who want to lay some things on the table, I'm sure. In a good way. All the bills the senators moved to be laid on the table that are on the calendar. Is there objection? Without objection, we will lay all the bills on the table to take up on Thursday. Chair recognizes the majority leader again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, March 28th.
10 a.m. on Thursday. Are there any announcements? Any announcements that any of the senators wishes to be recognized for? They are bringing the food in, so. Bringing it in. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's good. You know, beggars can't be choosy. And I'm a beggar. Senators move that we stand adjourned. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. Senate's still wanting to work hard. Food is here. The food is here. We stand adjourned.